I'm very happy to have Chrysanthi Gkika today with me on Alnadi viewers. Very happy to have her here to share good experience about her music uh, activity, her own learning, her own experience with the instrument, and the different cultural aspects of this kind of music. Hi, Chrysanthi.
Hello, Fadil. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be invited to your project because I've been a fan of it and I've seen how many great people have talked with you, and I can only feel honored and surprised actually to be here. Thank you.
Happy to have you on Alnadi, and it's for all of us actually. So let's start with the beginnings. Let's start with the biography.
Okay, so I was born in 1996 in Athens, raised also here in Athens. And this is actually the home I've been raised. Not looking like that because we were three kids in the family, so everyone was changing rooms. But yeah, so from since I remember myself, I have been involved with music in choirs and in dancing lessons. I think since I was four, but I'm sure even before that, because I cannot remember a lot before that. My mother and my sister were also very involved in music,
Mm.
and especially my mother, because for her it was very important that she didn't have the chance to learn a musical instrument, so she always tried to direct one of us, one of the three kids in the family, to a musical instrument style.
Mm-hmm.
And she did it with all of my brother actually, and my sister. Everyone tried something, but I was the only one to stick with music.
Mm.
Um, Another important thing I think that has to do with my DNA and with all this music
Mm-hmm.
is that her grandfather was from Antalya, a part in Turkey, in the coast of Aegean,
Mm.
opposite to Cyprus, where Greeks and Turkish and many actually people from many civilizations were living there. And her grandfather came to Greece with the exchange of the populations with the
Mm-hmm.
incidents of 1922.
Mm-hmm.
And she was very proud for this for her roots that were coming from there. And actually, this was her favorite also grandparent, her grandfather coming from there.
Mm-hmm.
So from what I remember is that we were having dancing lessons, traditional Greek dances. We were listening to traditional Greek music from all over Greece, but also from this part of Turkey. And sometimes I remember her telling me stories about her grandfather talking in Turkish.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all of this
Mm-hmm.
led me to start playing this music.
Mm-hmm.
But before that,
Mm.
what happened with me was that I got involved with classical European music with the piano around 6 years old.
Mm.
Just because I was jealous by seeing my sister taking up piano lessons.
Yeah.
So I started while taking Greek dancing lessons at the same time and being a part of a kids choir. Um, and But I can remember that as the years were passing, I was never very fond of
Mm.
European classical music. I knew that it needed much discipline to practice and to study a lot, but I was not there.
Mm-hmm.
And and at the same time, I could see that there was no week that I was going to skip my Greek traditional dancing lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this creates something there. So
Mm.
we have a child that learns.
Mm.
European music, but it's very drawn to traditional music.
Mm.
And yeah, and also um, I also had my club during these Greek traditional dancing lessons because it was happening in the school I was going there, my primary school. So I had many friends from my class.
Mhm.
We had our club of kids from the school that were dancing Greek traditional dances and singing and listening to Greek traditional music,
Mhm.
not just
Mm.
Greek traditional music. I will not say that I was not also very excited with listening commercial pop Greek music,
Mhm.
but yeah, in my house and in my heart, tradition was very very important
Mm.
without realizing it in the same amount that I realize it now.
Mhm.
So, after all these years of being involved with traditional music,
Mhm.
we were growing up, and I also saw friends from this dancing association learning some traditional instruments.
Mhm.
So at the same time, my mother thought, why don't you uh, try to learn also a
Mhm.
traditional instrument now that you know how to play piano, you know some things about music in general from my lessons of piano.
Mhm.
So I said, yeah, why not?
Mm.
And I remember that we had two CDs, two albums here in the house. One was from Dinamis του Αιγαίου, a very, very important band, Greek
Mm.
band that was like reviving at that time the traditional music from uh, Mediterranean region,
Mhm.
but also this part of Asia Minor, as we call it.
Mhm.
And also an album that I still have after all these years, and I would be like very happy to listen to it every day, the whole day, which is called "Στα μέρη που πονά η νοσταλγία."
Mhm.
Like if I could translate it, in the place where the nostalgia is like you feel the pain of the nostalgia.
Aha.
So, and in this, yeah, and in this CD, in this album, Socrates Sinopoulos was playing. Christos Tsiamoulis also was had the idea, the creator of this album, and
Mhm.
also the previous album. He was a founder member of Dinamis του Αιγαίου, Forces of the Aegean,
Mhm.
and they had as a guest and as a co-creator of the album Halil Karaduman, a
Oh.
renowned kanun player from Istanbul, from Turkey.
Mhm.
So yeah, through listening to this album many many times, I don't maybe for years
Mm.
since it had been released. My mother thought that why don't you learn kanun?
Mhm.
Of course, she tried to direct me to these kind of traditional instruments and not others like I don't know santur that we have also in Greece
Mhm.
because she's very proud as I told you from for her Turkey's room
Mhm.
roots,
Yes.
Greek Greek Turkish roots.
Mhm.
So the idea was to take me to a music bar in 2007
Mm.
to listen live a performance of this album with Halil Karaduman and Christos Tsiamoulis.
Wow.
By then I was 11 years old.
Mhm.
I don't remember many things actually from where I was 11, but I think this is one of the few memories that I have from then. That night, where I listened for the first time the Kemenche, the Politiki Lira, classic Kemenche for
Mhm.
Turkey.
Yes.
So we went there. It was a bar where you wouldn't expect to see an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And the goal is to listen to Kanun, and if I like the Kanun, to find a teacher.
Mhm.
And of course, there the I think I'm not sure, but maybe the politiki lira, the lira of Istanbul, started playing Socrates Sinopoulos,
Mhm.
and I started crying. I was like, "No, mom, I want to learn this instrument, not the other one."
Yeah.
This was for me the big bang of my musical world. Because even if I have listened to this instrument in the CD, I could never imagine myself getting that touched when I listened to it live.
Mhm.
And immediately through a mutual friend that was also performing in that concert, Manousos Klapakis, great
Mhm.
percussionist,
Mhm.
we tried to reach Socrates and ask him what's happening with this instrument. How can we find it? How can we learn it? And I remember him when I went with my mother to introduce myself and say, "Hey, I love this instrument. Can you give me lessons?" When I think about that now, it's very funny because Socrates is a difficult person to find and talk to and actually ask for having lessons, private lessons with him nowadays. So he took my hands and looked at my fingernails and said, why don't you do you want to get involved with this
Mm.
piece of wood? You want to ruin your nice fingernails. You will not be able to paint it.
Uh-huh.
Yes, but it was so sweet. Immediately he gave me information on how I could do it. But at that time, it was very difficult to find a teacher. So he
Uh-huh.
was not giving lessons because he had been involved with universities where he was teaching there.
Mhm.
But he gave me some suggestions of his students that I could approach and
Mhm.
ask if I wanted to learn to play this instrument.
Mhm.
So yeah, this was the big bang. After
Yeah.
that, I became a huge fan
Mm.
of him, of the instrument, of this music. I started listening to more and more. I remember we had a computer in our house and we were trying to search for more music through the internet. YouTube was not that famous at that time, like 15
Yes.
years ago.
Mhm.
And we were spending many hours with my mother trying through some programs to find music.
Mhm. This became a
And
mission then.
yeah, it became a mission. Like another mission was to follow Socrates in every of his concerts
Mhm.
and trying to sit in the first row to watch
Yeah.
him. I was always, my mother always had in her purse like many napkins because I was crying from this feeling I was getting,
Wow.
those vibrations that were coming from the instrument. Yeah,
Yes.
and this is still happening. I'm crying with this sound from
Mhm.
my teacher now, Socrates,
Mhm.
and I even get now emotional of thinking this.
Yeah,
So
interesting. So that
yeah,
was, progressive encounters, then the big encounter of meeting
yeah,
Socrates in that concert in the
yeah,
bar, then the missions of chasing
yeah,
Socrates and chasing
exactly.
a teacher, finding an instrument, all of these things. Yes.
I think that I never gave up to the mission of having Socrates as my teacher, even though he told me that I cannot do it. And so maybe this is why this is maybe one of the reasons why I was crying because I was
Uh-huh.
feeling like, oh, I need you as my teacher. He
Yeah.
could see that I was crying because during the breaks I was going to backstage and, hey Socrates, how are you doing? And this was a good thing later because from
Mhm.
having this as a mission and going to the venues that he was playing,
Mhm.
Back then he was like performing a lot with Christos Chiamoulis and his now wife Katerina Papadopoulou, also then wife.
Mhm.
And so these people also learned who I was, a little
Mm.
kid that was crying to learn Kemenche. And this helped me later because I actually had my first Kemenche,
Mhm.
and it was gifted from Christos Chiamoulis,
Mhm.
the guy that was also performing with Socrates in the first concert I
Mhm.
saw.
Yeah.
And he also found a teacher for me. After like 1.5 year or 2 years of chasing after Socrates and Stratis Psaradelis, a great
Mhm.
also performer of this instrument,
Mhm.
I had my first teacher, which was Lefteris Fotopoulos.
Mhm.
Um, um, he was a student of Socrates as well.
Mhm.
But the thing with the Lefteris is that he was back then at the same age with my brother.
Mhm.
So for me, that I was 13 years old then, this was very, very nice because I felt very relaxed with Lefteris, that he
Mhm.
was in the same age with my brother. I
Mhm.
felt very easy to communicate with him, not
Mhm.
scared of going to the lessons or of making questions.
Uh-huh.
So
Interesting.
I started with Lefteris in Athens Conservatory
Mhm.
um, through the help of Christos Tsiamoulis, who
Mm.
was then the artistic director of traditional department of Athens Conservatory.
Mhm.
And he gave me my instrument. I still have it. It's not this one, but I
Mhm.
still have it and play with it.
Mhm.
He found my teacher, and he also like adopted me in his orchestra, even though I didn't have any experience with this music, playing this music, or with the instrument yet. So from
Mhm.
the beginning, I joined also an orchestra of experienced students on their instruments, and not on their instruments, but also on the modal music theory, let's say,
Uh-huh.
especially of the Turkish makam
Mm.
system, plus the Byzantine theory with echos and
Mhm.
sounds and everything.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this
So,
this for me was the 0 point when everything
interesting. Then
started.
what happened after that? Let's maybe touch into school, university, the
Yeah.
community, the the music community was out there. Did it
Mm-hmm.
add a value and so on? Maybe let's go for school first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I started these lessons, immediately I became, I mean, Kemenche lessons, immediately I became attached to this style, this music.
Mm.
Still is traditional music, but now it's very centered to a specific region.
Mm.
And back then I was like in junior high school and after some years in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened in school was that um, I had some difficulties
Mm.
getting attached with fellow students,
Mm.
like with my not my friends, but generally people from the school, because we didn't have same musical preferences.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that music was, of course, and is in Greece a very big thing because
Mm.
we are attached to our music, but in music in general.
Yes.
And I remember that in school it was very popular to listen to hip hop, rap, or
Mm.
commercial music like pop,
Mm-hmm.
or even what we call skiladico, which
Mm-hmm.
is not a good, for me at least,
Mm-hmm.
style. And at the same time I couldn't go out with friends to listen this music, to dance to this music. For me it felt very strange to do that.
Mm.
I was not enjoying. I have found what I enjoyed. And
Yeah.
at the same time even if I continued doing the piano lessons, I start feeling also disconnected from European classical music.
Mhm.
There was this new world opening up to me, and
Mhm.
I was fully into discovering this new world and letting
Mhm.
everything aside. So in the school, this is what happened,
Mhm.
and at the same time, what was happening is that I was a good student. So it was like a black sheep in my school, a good student that listens to this strange music. And sometimes it was Turkish songs and words like saz semai. So
Mhm.
I was going to some friends that I had, and I was like, I am playing this music, and this is a very nice piece called saz semai. Wow, wow, this is Turkish. You're listening to Turkish music. This is very unpopular.
Yes.
So yeah, I became a bit unpopular,
Mhm.
but at the same time I was forming new new friendships with the people and the
Mhm.
students of these orchestras and bands that that I had joined with the Kemenche back then,
Mhm.
which were not in my age. I was, I think, the youngest back then
Mhm.
among people that were 20 years old. There were college students or even
Mhm.
older, but I didn't mind because they were very open to me. So
Mhm.
they would invite me and of course my mother
Mhm.
and my guardian to concerts to go and listen to those great masters perform. And for
Mhm.
me that was enough. That was
Mhm.
really enough. And also after 6 months I of taking lira lessons, I decided first that I will do this for my life. I will
Mhm.
study this in the university where Socrates was. Again, this
Mhm.
was my mission to have him.
So you knew your way back then.
Yes, this is so true.
Yeah.
And to I decided to start having seminars in a musical labyrinth musical workshop.
Mhm.
Another milestone for me.
Yes.
And then, of course, university happened.
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh, in detail now,
Mhm.
uh, I was in Athens Conservatory for 1 year studying with Lefteris Fotopoulos, and
Mm.
then continued to another conservatory, which was the music school of Simon Karas,
Mm.
a great um, master of Byzantine music, but also collector and really big person for traditional Greek music because he was back then when it was not very popular. He was going around Greece and collecting music with his old
Mhm.
recording device back then.
Mm.
And yeah, I was studying there in his school with Lefteris Fotopoulos for a while again, but then he had to move to another country. So what happened is that I changed a
Mhm.
teacher and started lessons in the same school with Stratis Psaradelis.
Mm.
Stratis, also a student of Socrates,
Mhm.
is a great performer and a great teacher, a great musician, a great person.
Mhm.
And until I graduated high school, I was having lessons with him. At the same time,
Mhm.
I was visiting every summer for sure, but sometimes even in winter time, I was visiting the labyrinth
Mhm.
to follow seminars with Socrates and
Mhm.
with Deria Turkan.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes. Wonderful.
So from 2010,
Mm.
I think end of June of 2010, I was 13 years old, having 6 months this instrument on my hands, literally not understanding much of
Mm.
makams and taxims and semis and all this stuff. I was very good in memorizing pieces, especially
Mhm.
sasemis, peshrevs that are long
Mm.
in duration.
Wow.
So I decided to go there. Of course, I was 13 years old. I had my mother coming with me,
But
and
she was
I
happy,
had
I'm
my
sure. She was happy,
Yes,
I'm sure.
she I'm
She is
yes.
seeing, the dream happening.
Yes, and it was also maybe her dream that she lived through me.
Yeah.
And I went to the first seminar. It was the most difficult thing back then for me
Mm-hmm.
because there were great musicians in that seminar. There were musicians that are now teachers to universities, to even Labyrinth. And I was very, very little for that
Mm.
seminar. I couldn't understand anything. So
Mm.
after each morning session, I was going to the home I was living,
Mm.
and I was crying because I couldn't play anything. I couldn't understand anything. There was this system of transposing what you see in the score, and my
Yes.
European trained mind was like, I see G Sol, I play Sol.
Yes.
And for me, yeah, it was the most difficult thing, but I was so happy to be there
Mm.
um, to meet Deria and of course Ross Daly.
Yes.
And yeah,
Socrates.
this is Socrates I knew, and it was great to have him as a teacher. But I cannot say
Yeah.
just that Socrates happened as my teacher through these seminars. Many things happened. I remember
Yeah.
I was 13 years old, and I met all these great masters. I met Deria, Ross, Kelly Thoma,
Mm.
Fren Lopez, and
Mm.
I think that I was the and still am one of the luckiest
Mm.
persons to have been there in such a young age, and I can acknowledge that this is not for not it's not to be taken as granted.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm. Interesting.
So another mission was then to follow every seminar,
Mm.
Kemenche seminar, or seminar of these two great masters of Kemenche, Socrates and Deria,
Mm.
of Labyrinth.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And yeah,
Then what
the
happened
struggle
after that?
though,
This was the summer after your high school, isn't it?
no,
Is
this was the summer when I was in the secondary class of junior high school. I was 13 years old.
okay. All right.
What happened after that,
Yes.
this is a summer I really remember.
Mm-hmm.
So I was crying, as I told you,
Mm.
every noon after the sessions. But then I remember going to my village when everything finished for spending the rest of summer holidays,
Mm.
and practicing so much, and everything started making sense, and
Mm-hmm.
playing Never Sersa Semai, and being able to do the transposition. And then I realized that when you attend this seminar, it's not just on, and these seminars of Labyrinth in general, is
Yeah.
not just to understand what you are doing at that time, but is a material that you will work for your whole life, maybe if you choose to play this music for your whole life, and
Yes.
discover more and more and more things and details as you go through studying this repertoire. So for me
Yes.
this was a revelation.
Wow.
And then of course I became um how is the right word, addicted to these
Yes.
seminars.
Mm-hmm.
I was going also in winter seminars and
Mm.
in summer seminars, if winter seminars, of course, were
Mm-hmm.
happening.
Mm.
So February to and then maybe June or July or August, I was in Hudetsi. As I was
Mm-hmm.
growing up, I tried to stay even after my seminars, maybe for 1 month there.
Mm.
Even I was if I was very young to be
How
there.
long was the seminar back then?
It was 1 week, like 5 6 days of lessons,
Mm.
from 6 hours every day.
Mm-hmm.
Very important lessons. Not
Yes.
not easy to always be focused because the material was huge. I really
Mm.
miss
Yeah.
those days,
Yes. Yes.
and because I was very young back then.
Mm.
Again, one of the youngest that time students of Labyrinth, I for me it was easier also to access those great musicians, not the ones that I have mentioned, but
Mm.
Omer Erdoğdular, Yordal Tokcan, Yoksel
Mm.
Baktayir,
Mm.
because they were seeing a young kid playing this instrument, which was not the most common thing. So sometimes they were also very interested to approach me and ask me how this happened and wow, bravo, and say bravo to me. And I can now I realize how lucky I was, and I
Mhm.
appreciate so much
Mhm.
all this openness, and that they are so great also in music, but also uh, as a character, as a personality.
Yes. Yes.
What happened also is that
Mhm.
I became also much more persistent of my dream to study in university this instrument.
Mhm.
And for my parents, they were not like very happy, not happy, but
They
they
were in
were a bit
doubt.
yeah, they were a bit worried because they
Mm.
could see I was a great student in school,
Mm.
and said, why you have those great grades in school, why don't you become a doctor, why don't you become a lawyer,
Mm.
the top professions.
Yes.
Since you can do it and you can score these high grades to enter those universities, medical universities and stuff, why
Mhm.
don't you want to do this, which will probably make you have an easier life
Mhm.
and more earnings
Yes.
than try to be a musician? And I remember having not huge fights from their side, but from my side, I was getting so frustrated. No, I want to do this.
Mm.
Don't say anything else to me. I will do this, and I will be very good at this, and I will make it happen as I want and as I dream of it, and I will earn my living without much struggle.
Mm.
Of course, now I have a bit of a different idea, but
Yes.
I'm very happy that I was able to follow my dream. I'm very happy that my parents were very supportive of me, even though if they had these thoughts and they were sharing with me.
Mhm.
But of course, as the years were passing and as I was getting more involved with that music in seminars, in my lessons, in orchestras, in more orchestras and bands, I even had my first little concerts before graduating high school.
Mhm.
And I remember making my first 50 euros in last year of high school. Then
Wow.
everything became more clear to me and to them that
Mhm.
maybe that I have what it takes
Mhm.
to chase after it, not just to make it, but to chase it, because you need to chase it and always be
Mhm.
in move
Yes.
to try and achieve
Interesting.
whatever goal you have.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
And then university happened. I studied just the amount I needed to in order to enter the university. So in the final exams, Greek exams, I scored exactly the grades that I had to enter university with and be Socrates student in
Mhm.
University of Macedonia in Thessaloniki.
Mhm.
And then I left my hometown
Mm.
in Athens and moved to Thessaloniki, and the whole other journey started.
Mhm. Interesting. Let's maybe give a highlight of now. You maybe will go for the learning experience,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you have described for the previous period. But let's now focus on the university. What is it out there? What did you study? What are the good things, good encounters, and then move on with that. We'll get
Sure.
back to the learning process after all.
Mm-hmm. So what I studied in the university as a main subject was Lyra of Istanbul,
Mhm.
classic Kemenche, politiki Lyra,
Mm.
as you want to name it. and in general Greek traditional music.
Mm.
So this is actually what my degree says, that I'm a certified lira player,
Finally.
and yes, with focus on Greek traditional folk music.
Mhm.
Uh, but of course, a university cannot be that limited.
Mm.
It's a it's a foundation that is open to the world,
Mm.
and of course, my main subject was Lyra Politiki,
Mhm.
Politiki Lyra, and Socrates was my main subject teacher, my supervisor.
Mhm.
But I cannot say that I was just playing traditional Greek music there, or maybe mm, Turkish Ottoman classical music.
Mm.
So, and also, I was not just playing the repertoire of my instrument with this instrument.
Mm.
What happened in the university is that I met many people of my age, and this was the first time actually for me to happen, because usually I was all the
Yes.
youngest in the orchestras, in the bands, in labyrinth seminars.
Mhm.
So then I entered the university, and I started reacting and play inter sorry not reacting interacting
Mm.
with people of my age playing similar instruments, not
Mm.
this instrument,
Mm.
like ouds, like qanun, and this was great for me.
Mhm.
And um, and also I I went in depth with studying more things on the Kemenche that I didn't study before, not because of Socrates,
Mm.
but not 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 just because of
Mm.
Socrates, but also because of all the other professors that are still in this university and have different areas of interest
Mm.
in with their instruments, if they are instrumentalists, but also theoretically, because we were also now studying music, studying the theory of music,
Mm.
ethnomusicology, and many other
Mm.
theoretical stuff that I
Yes.
didn't touch before. I was
Mhm.
just playing and playing and playing, and I still am,
Mm.
but this is also very
Mhm.
important for me now.
Interesting. So this is the BS degree.
Sorry.
And this is the BS degree, bachelor degree.
Yes, yes,
Yes, and
bachelor.
it is interesting that you have an advisor in the BS degree, which is very interesting. Usually, it's not happening. In some
Yeah, yeah,
universities,
this
they
is
do.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, this is true. You
Mhm.
have many professors for
Mm.
each subject, but not like your
Yeah.
uh, professor.
Yeah.
But in this university, and maybe it's one of the unique universities in Greece that have that,
Mm.
is like a conservatory actually, because you
Mhm.
have private lessons on your instrument. It depends again on your level,
Mm.
but if you are higher in level with your instrument, you can have 2 hours a week private lesson with the teacher of this instrument.
Mm.
My teacher was Socrates Sinopoulos, not just my teacher. I consider Socrates my teacher, my mentor,
Mm.
my family, because he was you have to think that I moved from my city. I left my home
Mm.
and moved 600 kilometers away from my home,
Mm.
and the people that I knew better in
Mhm.
that city was my teacher,
Mhm.
because I knew him since I was 13 years old,
Yes.
and I had him as a teacher in the seminars.
Mhm.
So I felt very familiar with him.
Mm.
I felt a bit safer in this foreign
Mm.
city that I didn't know,
Mhm.
and he also felt the closest person to me
Mm.
in this city back
Mm.
then, and still
Interesting.
feels
Yeah.
like one of the closer. like my family to me.
Yeah, yeah.
It's now more than half of my life that I know him
Mm-hmm.
and I consider him as my teacher.
Yes.
So, among Socrates, there were many other great Greek
Mm.
musicians like Manos Achallinotopoulos, great virtuos of clarinet,
Mm.
Thimios Adzakas, a great oud player, Lefteris Tsikouridis, bouzouki player, they're
Mm.
centered in Thessaloniki,
Mm.
that researches a lot about the history of bouzouki. And
Mm.
all of these people gave me something
Mm-hmm.
because, of course, I was playing clarinet repertoire with the Kemenche
Mm.
through participating ensembles with clarinet players in the
Mm.
university. I started listening more to rebetiko and bouzouki, and also playing with my fellow
Mm.
students that were not playing Kemenche, or let's say Turkish, Arabic,
Yeah.
uh, Eastern
Mm.
instruments.
Interesting.
And the first years of my studying process in the university were
Mm.
also the first years that I started traveling with my
Mm.
instrument to play and to join other musicians of Europe or East Mediterranean region that were playing also instruments like that.
Wow. Interesting. Maybe we
Yes,
pause later for this when we discuss the
yes, yes.
activities and exposures. But for now, let's listen to some recording from this time.
Great.
Yeah, do you have something to share?
Um, yeah, I do have actually something to share.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, After all these years of being in the university,
Mm.
my last project in order to get my degree was to organize my own final exam, like a recital of my instrument to
Mm-hmm.
see if I was good enough to graduate.
Okay.
So yeah, what I would like to share is a part of my final exam where I perform a solo piece of the representative repertoire of this instrument called Kyrdili Hijaskar Sasemai from Vasilaki.
Wow, that's a beautiful one. We'll listen to it then. So thanks for the great recording, actually, and
Thank you.
let's proceed with what happened after your bachelor degree.
Hmm.
I know you are doing your master's now.
Yeah, I have just started. So what happened is that after this day, this recording, that
Mm-hmm.
was I have to share it with you. It's very funny. It
Mm.
was one of the hottest days of June, like 37 degrees,
Wow.
and I was performing with my duet,
Mm.
Harris, which was not playing in this recording,
Mm.
but it was so difficult, and we were looking so forward for this recording to finish the final exam because we were like sweating so much. We
Mm.
couldn't have the air condition open for the recording. So
Yeah.
after that, even if I had this experience,
Mm.
I decided that I wanted to follow a masters in the
Mm.
same, maybe not the same field like a master in Kemenche, but in in music in general, and maybe in modal music. I was not sure back then,
Mm.
but I decided that I could go again
Mm.
into an experience like that, even if there were some things not very exciting, like the hot weather that
Mm.
day. And what happened is that I had already applied in a university in the Netherlands
Mm.
to follow a master's there, but things didn't happen as planned, so I didn't go there. And here I will just say a small thing is that I decided to go to that university, to Codarts University in Rotterdam,
Mm.
because I have a very very close relationship with this university and its teachers and
Mm.
its whole philosophy, because I have many friends studying there, friends from my university
Mhm.
or friends that I met from traveling to Rotterdam
Yeah.
for playing. We will discuss it about later.
Yes.
But it didn't happen, so I stayed in Athens, and all these days of COVID for
Mm.
me were very difficult musically, creatively,
Mm.
and I decided that I don't just want to sit in my room and play Kemenche or not playing Kemenche and doing
Mm.
other stuff.
Mm.
And I should make the most out of my free time now that we were not performing and playing to do something more with
Mm.
what I already know and what I have in my hands.
Mm.
And what happened out of nowhere is that the department that I was studying and graduated for
Mm.
announced a new master's program.
Mhm.
So after having moved back to Athens because of COVID, even if I hadn't yet finished and graduated my bachelor,
Mm.
so it was just in the last 2 years
Mm.
that COVID happened.
Mhm.
Then I decided that okay, I'm doing it again, same department, even
Mm.
if I wanted a bit to also explore other universities and other philosophies of teaching and I don't know,
Mm.
educated
Mm.
educating
Mm.
systems.
Yes.
But this happened, and I said, okay, this is it. I will join again my university, my department, the desks and the halls of the university that I know,
Mhm.
and I will do it. In the beginning I didn't know that I will, if I had to move it back to Thessaloniki, or if I could be staying in Athens and do it remotely.
Mhm.
But yeah, I decided to do it.
Mm.
So I went back to Thessaloniki. I applied. I gave an audition
Mm.
to be accepted to the masters. Again with the teachers and professors that I knew,
Mhm.
but it was more open
Mm.
theme as a
Mm.
master. So the masters is on music, sciences, and arts as a
Mhm.
title, and that means that there is a bit of freedom
Yes.
to find your own way and find what you want to focus more on.
Mm.
Um, so what I am studying now as subjects
Mm.
are first
Mm.
how to improvise in a more freely
Mhm.
environment without having the rules of theories,
Mhm.
and which is something that I'm very grateful of doing there, because
Mhm.
when you start and playing for 10 years, they say to you, make an improvisation, and of course you're thinking, do a taksim.
Mhm.
So you know that there are some paths that you have to follow, and now
Yes.
I have to let everything go and even act like I don't know how to play my instrument and just make sound. This is
Mhm.
very exciting for me.
Mhm.
And another thing is about physics of the sound in general.
Mhm.
But the goal is, of course, to produce a thesis and a hybrid thesis,
Mm.
because I will combine it again with a performance.
Mhm.
After so much thinking of what to do there, I decided again to be centered with my instrument.
Mhm.
This is something I cannot let go that easily. And
Yes.
what I'm currently studying and trying to do is follow the life
Mhm.
and the career, the steps of a great the researching wise, not
Mm.
performing,
Yeah.
just to research the life, the steps of a great
Mm.
um, Kemenche player called
Mm.
Lambros Londaridis.
Mhm.
And here we have a common thing, that you think that what we have
Mm.
should be shared, should be recorded and have it for the years to come.
Yes.
So from the same idea, I have this need to find the most I can about all these great players. And there are things, but there are very, something here, something there, not in let's say, in a form that you could have them collected.
Mhm.
So collect everything, not invent something from my own. This is not my need. My need
Mhm.
is to collect everything about this great master, this great musician, and
Mhm.
share it with everyone, because I think that those people
Mhm.
deserved to
Mhm.
get the knowledge that they should
Wonderful.
have.
Looking forward really for seeing the thesis. Will it be in English?
No, but no one stops me to do it later. So it will be in Greek. It will
Mm.
not be an extended thesis, because it's a hybrid and I have to combine it with a
Yeah.
performance. But the contents are, first of all, the bio, the history of this person, Lambros
Mhm.
Leondaridis,
Mhm.
who was a, a, a part of a great family in Istanbul. That
Mhm.
everyone, almost everyone in this family, was a Kemenche player.
Wow.
His father, his brother. But what is very interesting about this player is that he was the first one to move to Greece with this instrument in hand,
Mm.
with the incidents of the population exchange in 1922,
Mhm.
and the first one to record with Greek lyrics and to perform in Greece with the
Mm.
instrument in hand. And the actually the he was belonging in the style that we call, some call, pre-war rebetiko,
Mm.
or rebetiko of the middle part, the middle war
Uh-huh.
season between first and second world war two,
Mhm.
and cafe aman music and all this stuff.
Mm. Interesting.
But there is a second thing that I need to mention here.
Mm.
My need to research about this person and his style, actually, and it's not just because I want to share it with the people, but um, it came as an idea because for 5 years I was performing in a venue in Thessaloniki
Mhm.
called um, Anatolikon. It was
Mm.
like Cafe Aman or a Meihane
Mhm.
resembling a Cafe Aman. And
Mm.
we were playing this kind of music. So I discovered this music there. Even though I knew his existence as a musician, and I didn't know about his music. I know this great Kemenche player, Lambros Londaridis,
Mm.
but I didn't know how important he was for the instrument, and for us, the
Mm.
Greeks that play these instruments, because most of us know it from some recordings of Rosa Eskenazi
Mm.
and from this era. So in Thessaloniki, I was playing 5 years this music.
Mhm.
I loved this music from playing there,
Mhm.
and I decided that there has to be something after all these years of studying
Interesting.
in practice this music. So I also had to go deeper and understand the history behind this incident of having Kemenche in Greek recordings, how it came here, because we know that it was an instrument from Istanbul played from people there. So one
Interesting.
part is this, the
Mm.
history
Mm.
of this player, and another part, a second part, is to collect in a catalog all of his recordings,
Mm.
uh, or at least the one that I can find.
Mhm.
And the third part, in the third part, I will try to um, extract some of his technique and
Mm.
his actually his ornamentation preferences in his taxims.
Mm.
I don't know if I will come in any conclusions, but
I am
I'm
sure you
very
will.
interested very interested in this kind of coloring melodies,
Mm,
the ornamentation.
mm, interesting. I think you came from a hands-on, real exposure to music. You chose your kind of taste. You stick to this kind of instrument, which is not an easy instrument.
Mhm.
And then you went to a very different university with great masters in there. And from our interview with Socrates on Alnadi, previous one, he
Great guy.
exposed really the way he believes teaching should be and the way university teaching should be, the way he believes. And you have just said similar things, really. I'm very happy to hear this again. And
Yeah.
again, that's a hands-on thing. Now you come from that experience and from labyrinth exposure, from meeting all these masters to a university to a research. All of these are of the same nature. They
Hmm.
are not like hitting each other or maybe making a kind of conflict. And you are very clear on your taste. I don't see that you are confused about this kind or that kind. Maybe theories that collide to each other or with each other, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, but at the same time, I don't feel committed to just serve this style.
Yes.
So, as I told you, when entering the university, I also started traveling a lot.
Mm.
And through this experience, I can say that I have played with this instrument,
Mm.
classical music, and European classical music, and
Mm.
I started enjoying more European classical music
Mm.
from playing with this instrument than with the piano.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what I like. I have discovered what I like. Of course,
Mm.
from the beginning,
Mm.
I am very true to the to my preference in Greek traditional music and in Ottoman classical music, plus
Yes.
folk music, because later I discovered that. But I'm also very open
Mm.
to other styles, to
Mm.
other worlds of
Mm-hmm.
systems, let's say, of music.
Yes.
And I cannot say that I will say no to playing something really, really different from what I know so far. A
Mm-hmm.
challenge is always accepted and much, much appreciated.
Mm.
And also, maybe it's the only process that makes me practice
Mm-hmm.
with the instrument.
Yeah. Like seeing a new challenge,
Yeah, and
discovering a
actually,
new,
yes,
yeah, and
I
see
can
how
say
these
that.
can meet, right? Because,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and actually, I can say that I'm committed to music and
Mm-hmm.
not just to Kemenche. My goal is not to play as Socrates, as Deria, as Ross Daly, as Lambros Lodaridis, the ones, the great masters from for me that I look up to.
Mm.
But my goal is to play like I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Chrysanthi. Of course, I want to know how to make this that Deria does,
Mm.
or this that Kelly Thoma does. But in the end, I know that even if I will have studied for 100 hours, this specific ornament that someone that I like does, Lambros Londaridis, now that I am studying, when I will go to play for my pleasure or in a concert, I will do what it comes from inside of me and not from my head, where
Mm.
it has it has my head has been focused to learn an ornament, but
Mm.
my heart wants to play whatever it wants. So yeah,
Yes.
I am true to my music,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that means. If I want to
Mm.
play Jennifer Lopez with the Kemenche, I will do it, and I will feel okay with that. And
Interesting.
yeah, I will enjoy it.
Interesting. And what is an artist but if not reflecting the self, right?
Yes,
Everybody is
yes,
different and everybody has his own,
yeah.
yeah,
And this is why
being.
I
Yeah.
now now that I have grown
Mm,
up a bit,
mm,
I can be more friends with my friends from school than when I used to be in school with them. Because
mm,
I have realized that this thing, music, is something that just has to make people feel better. And if someone wants to feel nice by listening to Turkish şarkılar, then
mhm.
fine. If you want
Yes.
to listen to rap, okay. Even if I don't prefer it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Interesting.
this is
Mm,
something that um, also happens because I wasn't restricted from any of my teachers or these great masters that were around me or my family. No one
mm,
told me, don't go to play this kind.
mm,
This is not right. This is not good to play with the Kemenche.
mm,
So I feel first of all very grateful,
mhm,
and second, I know that it also comes from there. So
mm.
Socrates, who I am mentioning a lot, but he's
Mhm.
for me he's my mentor.
Yes.
And I'm very young to refer to him as a teacher that once I had.
Mm,
He's still my teacher.
mm,
So Socrates, every time I was like, "Can we learn this piece? Can you show me how to play this piece? Can I go to France to play jazz music?" He was like, "Of course, go for it. Try it, and then let's discuss how you feel about it." And
mm.
this was happening in the university in our class. So yeah,
Yeah, I
I'm
think you
very
guys are very tolerant and very open to many kinds of musics. One of these things is that you have the Istanbul Politikulera,
yes.
and you are exposed to your music, the Cretan music, Turkish, Arabic, all these kinds, in the region. And nowadays with Labyrinth, this is bringing them all together in one place with
True, but
such
it's
a
also
community.
it's
Yeah.
I think it's also the position of Greece geographically that
Yes.
helps with that.
Mm.
And and of course, yeah, the people that are before me,
Mm-hmm.
the generation of the people that came to Greece or were born in Greece and started playing again this instrument. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the 50, not 50, sorry, 80s and 90s, because
Mm-hmm.
there was a break
Yeah.
where you couldn't find this music anymore in Greece around 60s, 70s,
Mm-hmm.
and then um, the rebirth.
Mm.
So the generation of the rebirth of this music was much more open.
Mm.
So the people that I have as in my head as my teachers now, my masters, even if they're not playing liras or I don't know this specific instrument,
Mm.
I consider many musicians in Greece and not only as my masters.
Mm.
We're very open and also uh, open to experiment
Mm.
and to play this. So because of that, I also feel open. Not
Mm.
just because I'm Chrysanthi and I was born
Mm.
with this.
Mm.
They were also they also taught us to be open.
Mm. Yes. That's something really observed. Yes. Great. So, can we go to the subject of the learning process? I would like to see from your viewpoint. You have seen many different kinds of learnings and systems. What
Hmm.
worked really, and what is it that really the musician should pay attention to and focus on to have a result?
Yeah.
Mm.
So I can only talk about the learning process
Mm.
because
Mm.
I started teaching.
Mhm.
Before that, I wasn't realizing what I was doing and how to practice and how to study.
Mhm.
As a student, I was not the best, not in performing and in the sound that I was creating, but I was not very. persistent, or I was not the kid that, even though I loved this instrument, I would sit every day to study for 1 or 2 hours. So I was the kind of the student that was grabbing the instrument to study my homework
Mhm.
just before I went to the lesson.
Mhm.
But I know that for me it worked a lot that I changed teachers
Mhm.
through my learning process, the first steps. So,
Mhm.
as I mentioned, I started with Lefteris Fotopoulos.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. And even he was very,
Mhm.
very young person. So,
Mhm.
because he was very young, um, I find that he also I was also his first student, so he
Mhm.
didn't have much experience
Mhm.
on how to show me specific things.
Mhm.
He was a great player. This is something different.
Yeah.
But what happened was that I had the instrument in my hands, and we just started playing a song,
Mhm.
without showing me how to hold the instrument, how to hold the bow. So I just had to play a song for the first time.
Yeah.
And this, I found that for a kid is okay when learning this kind of an instrument, and I appreciated that it happened, because these are instruments that people learn to play like that, and not based on a method.
Mhm.
So I can say that I learned to play the Kemenche in an original way
Mhm.
by just having the instrument in my hands,
Mhm.
and it worked for me, because I had experience from learning the piano before, where things with the learning process are more structured.
Mhm.
Um, but I think what helped me more with the learning process is that I become exposed to so many things in one time, like
Mhm.
private lessons, orchestra, labyrinth seminars,
Mhm.
and playing with smaller ensembles
Mhm.
after during just the first year. So this is what helped me.
Mhm.
And yeah, later, when I continued with Stratis Psarathelis, I started diving more into details. He had also more experience in the teaching process, because
Mhm.
he is a teacher in high school for many years.
Mhm.
And but most of it, I think, um, the playing with others helped me. So
Mhm.
playing in the orchestras and in the smaller ensembles.
Mhm.
I had teachers and guides through music that were like driving me, like directing me to be more exposed.
Mhm.
And also this helped, because then I start listening more to myself.
Mhm.
And
So they
yeah, I
were
don't know.
pushing. They
Yeah,
were
yeah,
pushing you
like
forward. Yeah.
yes, a lot.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sometimes I felt that I didn't want to go there. Like they were telling me, Chrysanthi, make a taxim. And I was like, no, no, I cannot do it. Or let's go to the Greek national radio to record something. And I was like 14 years old.
Mhm.
This was too much for me. Or people coming to my house, friends, family, telling me, okay, play something for us.
Mhm.
For a kid that is learning an instrument, this is too much. Like,
Mhm.
it's not easy for kids to expose, but also not for just for kids, but for beginners in
Mhm.
something.
Yes.
It's too much. I think um, what helped me learn, not better, but what pushed me through this learning process, was this being exposed to more people, doing concerts, playing many things. I From the first 2 years of my studying of Kemenche, with
Mhm.
the private lessons and the orchestras, I have some packs of paper with scores like that,
Mm-hmm.
too much. So yeah,
That's a
this kind.
measurement of how much you are receiving. All sorts of things.
Yes, yes,
Printable things and then real life experiences, cultural things about the
mhm,
music.
yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, this is just for the beginning
Mm.
of my learning process. Later in the
Mm.
university, and just before the university, but also now because I'm still in the learning process, what helped was that my teachers, my masters, stepped aside
Mm.
to and kind of gave their place to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, Socrates was, um, after let's say a while, when he saw what I could do with the instrument, that I was in the right path, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
he even skipped some recordings that he was invited to, so I could go.
Wow.
So for
Mm.
me, this is the greatest that a teacher could do. Like,
Mm.
I have to do this thing, but I will give you my place,
Mm.
and try to see if you can find your way by doing this. And this started becoming more and more. And yeah, this was, I think, the greatest thing. And of course, what
Wonderful.
happened
Mm.
by the same thing, like
Mm-hmm.
giving more space to me and laying back as a teacher, is also having my first students,
Mm.
like yeah, suggesting me as a teacher. And for me this was the top, because then I understood everything I was doing wrong and went back to to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I could see, I was like, oh my god, what am I going to teach for the first time? I have to
Mm.
go back and relearn it.
Mm.
And why didn't my teacher show it to me like that? But if my teacher had showed to me how to to move the bow in the right way,
Mm.
then I would take it for granted,
Mm.
and maybe I would make it worse
Mm-hmm.
while the time was moving with the
Yeah.
instrument in my hand. So
Yes.
every time I have to teach to a student or to a group of a class, I
Mm.
have to study and I have to learn again, relearn, rediscover. Go back to the videos of my teachers showing me something, or to YouTube and find many recordings and see how this player did that. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that the learning process, for me,
Mm.
is more and more obvious now. Not just obvious, but
Mm.
I am in now I'm in the right spot for studying and practicing and learning.
Mm-hmm.
My
Interesting.
music, the pieces that I have already played,
Mm.
taksims, other styles, through discovering and practicing other styles, I come back to my style, and add things or change
Mm.
things. So I think that from now and until I die, not physically, but maybe musically or creatively, this will be the golden period of my learning process.
Mm-hmm. And we always continue to learn, I am sure.
Of course.
Even, the old great masters, they always say we still learn.
Of course. And every
Yes.
time I have something new to study, I become more excited than ever.
Yeah.
Nowadays that I was not performing, because for me, um, the first step to learn something is to have a new challenge or a new project, to
Interesting.
perform somewhere, or to teach
Mm.
someone that I haven't had as a student before.
Mm.
So when I have these challenges, then I'm more motivated to go
Mm.
and practice in my room, and sit in my chair and have the instrument on me for some hours,
Mm.
or the whole day on the desk, and go back and forth in the
Mm.
kitchen and in the room. So yeah, every time I have a new challenge, this is the most motivating for me to practice and to learn and to study,
Mm.
even if it's not as am I. But Even if it is just the sasema, that I know how to navigate
Yeah.
through it.
Mm. Interesting. On this part, did you come to a conclusion about if there is a stepwise or a pathway of maybe learning this kind of music or this
Hmm.
Kemenche? Is there a way that we don't want to discuss it in detail now? Maybe this is
Yeah.
like a second kind of interview.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a
Yeah,
pathway or a method or what do you think there is?
there is,
Wonderful.
but it's specific for everyone. It's a personal path. I cannot
Mm.
say that I I am learning and studying the way that I was learning 10 years ago or 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And I can also not say that every student of mine is learning as the student that I will have in 1 hour later.
Mm.
So it's very personal. It depends on what you want to achieve.
Mhm.
Of course, there are some methods for teaching this instrument and learning it for everyone to become more clear.
Mm.
But this is, I think, just the beginning of this path.
Mm.
So yeah,
Interesting.
for everyone, the learning process is different and is not something that is like fixed. It's
Okay.
very liquid, and during the way it changes. And I think this is the most important and the
Mm.
most interesting. And for me,
Mm.
this is what it makes me not to be bored.
Mm.
Otherwise, if I knew that I have to study this piece this way and I will learn it in 1 hour, it wouldn't be very exciting. I
Yeah.
cannot
Yeah.
work with this. I cannot enjoy my music and what I hear or what I learn if I don't find it exciting.
Interesting. Interesting. Two more questions on this part.
Sure.
Yeah. What is the like the skill set that you would imagine a musician will have out
Mm.
of this learning process?
Skill set.
Yeah.
Give me an example so
I
I
mean,
can.
is it something material? Like, for example, if we take, for example, the Kemenche, we could say you have to master the right hand, the left hand, the
Mhm.
ornaments. Is it this way, or maybe you see it differently? Like, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I I I think that
Mm.
there are some basic things
Mm.
that you should know,
Mm.
but for me, in the end, what makes me appreciate more the player that I have next to me or in front of me
Mm.
is that I see that he enjoys what he is doing.
Okay.
So, because I have students that they are like 30 or more. I don't have younger kids as students, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is to make those people feel happy
Mm.
for having chose, sorry,
Mm.
this instrument, and
Mm.
also their goal is that. So for me,
Mm.
this is a great skill
Mm-hmm.
to to be able to feel happy and completed
Mm.
with what you have achieved,
Mm-hmm.
even though if it's not very well tuned. But if we're talking in a professional way, the skill set,
Mm.
uh, again, is the feeling. I don't care if someone is great in ornamenting, is great in the tuning. Of
Mm.
course, acknowledge these things and I say, okay, he's a very
Mm.
um, comfortable, or I don't know how to call it.
Yeah, this is the right word. Yeah.
Yeah, with his
Yeah.
instrument,
Mm.
but if I don't see that he also feels happy
Mm.
and make me feel as an audience happy with what he is doing, I then
Mm.
I say, okay, he's okay with the instrument and with his music. For me,
Mm.
is the feeling. Yes.
Okay, so this like skill set is like those foundational ones. We don't discuss
Mhm.
them. Whatever the mastery or the mastery is. is there. We are talking about feeling the music,
Yes.
right?
And being
What is the
happy,
music?
yeah.
Yeah, what is the music and the feel of it while performing or maybe receiving? Is it? This
Mm-hmm.
is what are you trying to say? This?
Yeah, I
Hmm.
am. I am
Hmm.
actually. And
Yeah.
I think that also the older players, the
Hmm.
old masters that we know of and we have heard, or even the ones that we were not so lucky to hear in recordings,
Hmm.
um, they were great because they were feeling this thing.
Hmm.
They didn't have teachers as we have now.
Hmm.
Probably they went from their house to another player's house and learned some things and watched this player uh, playing a piece, and then went back to their house and tried this piece, but in a way that they have perceived this
Hmm.
version. And sometimes what we say is that, okay, we listen, we receive 70%.
Hmm.
We go back to our house, we play 50% of what we heard,
Hmm.
and 10 days later, we play 30% as this player that we heard played. But for me, this doesn't mean that we are not skilled because we didn't play the
Hmm.
ornaments that he did. We didn't
Hmm.
do the dynamics he did. But
Hmm.
if we can invent our own ways through the same melody and have our
Hmm.
feeling being there, then it's okay. And
Yeah.
also, you hear people from Africa
Hmm.
playing monochord, is it called?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Monotonic. Yeah.
yeah, and also, yeah, the instrument with one string that you do with a stick of wood.
Yeah.
And there, for someone would say there is no skill to that. What skill is it to play doom da doom? But you can hear that the musician feels something when he
Hmm.
does that, even though there is no ornamentation, there is no dynamic, there is nothing
Hmm.
as we consider a skill
Hmm.
as we know it now, because of, maybe of methods of other instruments that have been established through the
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
2 centuries, maybe, or three.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So it's about the communication. You are
Yeah.
communicating as an artist to the others.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it
Yes.
for me.
Interesting. Interesting. And
but
in
but
this
at the
case,
same time, I
yeah.
have to say that I understand that for many people this is not the thing that
Hmm.
they want. They have their filters, and they say that I will enjoy this player if he has this and this and this, and if there is a tick in every box.
Hmm.
For me, the only thing I have to check is the feeling, the
Wow.
communication of that
And
feeling, maybe.
Chrysanthi, actually, when we listen to the great masters, and earlier you mentioned one of those masters that he had old recording and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Still, the existing masters, we see that the music we listen to is not a set of notes or very accurately performed set of notes, right? There is
Yes.
something behind. I think this is what you mean by the feeling, the
Yes,
emotions.
because all these things came after music and after music as a product. I mean,
Mm,
all these like words like ornamentation, dynamics, or skills, musical skills came chronologically also so much after the creation of a musical product.
mm,
So back then, who knows what they considered as a musical skill?
mm.
It's many things for me,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm open also to these things. For
Mm,
example, if I listen to Lambros Lodaridis, Socrates, Deria, whoever doing a great ornament,
mm,
of course I will, wow, how did he do it?
mm,
But for me, what it makes them great musicians is not that.
mm. It's the next layer, which
Yeah,
is the message
and
being received. Huh?
yeah, it's a very primitive, I think,
Mm,
thing.
Mm.
Because when I went for the first time and listened to Socrates, I didn't have anything of these filters like ornaments, tuning, makam, taxing, development of melody.
Mm.
But I cried with the feeling, and how this feeling was
Received.
came to my
Yeah.
way, received, and also produced.
Yeah, yeah. So the music is telling something in this case, communication, right?
Is stealing?
Telling you something,
Ah,
as
yeah,
like
yeah,
telling
yeah,
us. You are when you perform, we
yeah,
listen and we learn something from the music
yeah, yeah.
beyond these foundational things that every
Mm-hmm,
musician has to learn.
mm-hmm.
Maybe we should discuss the next layer rather than the foundation things.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting, interesting.
And also,
Yeah.
this is what I say to my teacher, to sorry, my students,
Mm.
that okay, who cares? You missed two notes, out of tune totally,
Mm.
and you were so happy. I saw
Mm.
your face when you were playing this
Mm.
melody. Why do you want to diminish this feeling that you had just because you played two notes wrong, or you didn't do
Mm.
the right bow, or the bow that I showed that it came to my mind to play when I was recording
Mm.
this piece for you. So yeah,
Mm.
if you feel that this is okay and you're happy and
Mm.
you are there when you are doing that, you have dived into
Mm.
your melody, yourself with your instrument,
Mm.
then this is great. This for me is greatness.
Mm. And what makes a fully rounded musician, Chrysanthi?
I don't know. And I don't know if there are fully rounded musicians, or if they are.
Mm.
I know that I I see some musicians as fully rounded. I don't know what makes them fully rounded,
Yeah.
and I don't know if they feel fully rounded musicians. But I don't ever want to feel that I am a fully rounded musician. No.
You want to continue learning and
I want to continue
advancing and
learning. I want to continue doing mistakes and also inventing myself through what someone would call a mistake.
Mhm.
And personally, I don't care
Mhm.
to learn from someone that considers himself a fully rounded musician,
Mm.
because that means that he will be also very limited to what he will tell me and maybe and
Mm.
show me.
Mm.
So I like this
Mm.
creativeness
Uh-huh.
and inspiration and experimentation that comes from musicians that don't feel fully rounded.
Uh-huh. Interesting. That is
Mm.
very interesting. And can we organize this knowledge? I have seen you teaching
Mm.
many good things in a very well organized manner, really.
Yeah.
And can we organize this musical knowledge as we teach it or as we tell it to others? Is it easy?
We can in a way,
Mm-hmm.
because we can understand that there are some things that are happening a lot,
Mm-hmm.
like the thing that you move the hand, the arm of the bow like that. Okay,
Mm.
this you can say,
Mm.
but this is just a start, a base, and there are so many things to that you can dig and find.
Mm.
This we can't organize it,
Mm.
and I don't plan to organize it and show it to anyone. Not and actually reap your right to explore and
Mm.
dig for those things,
Mm.
because it's also again for everyone is different.
Yes.
But of course there are some things that you can organize
Mm.
in a bigger, let's say, group, but there are always smaller groups inside those big groups.
Mm.
I had to
Mm.
organize
Mm.
because first I started giving from the start of my teaching process
Mm.
online lessons, which made back then because it was before COVID, before everyone became more comfortable with technology,
Mm.
teaching from home.
Yeah.
But I had to organize these things because I have, for example, a student from Australia,
Mm.
and I felt and still feel that if I am teaching this instrument, I should show you something from this instrument,
Mhm.
and as it is or as it was,
Mm.
not as I want it to be for me.
Mhm.
And yeah, also I was um like forced, let's say,
Mm.
to organize these things because of that, because of technology,
Mhm.
and because I didn't have in front of me people that um, wanted to be like professional musicians, like young kids that it's also a bit more exciting for them to explore these things as it
Mm.
was for me. I had in front of me people that they were going to their work in
Mm.
the morning, and later in the afternoon they were tired, but they
Mm.
still wanted to honor
Mm.
this tradition and this instrument
Mhm.
by learning it, by giving time to it. So I thought, why don't you make it more easy for them
Mhm.
to achieve their goal, to make nice sound, have a nice sound, learn tunes, be happy that they started this.
Mhm.
And that actually made me to organize all these things, and I'm still doing it. I'm still organizing, and I could say every year
Mhm.
or less than a year,
Mm.
I change it because something I also learn something different, or I
Mm.
add or I remove something that I was saying in the wrong way, or something that I was
Mm.
showing in the wrong way,
Mhm.
or in the way that someone that was not interested to
Maybe like a
to
wiser
learn.
way of saying it, a wiser way to approach it, and yeah.
Yeah, I cannot
Mm.
say wiser because no one tells me
By
I'm
time,
getting wiser. Yeah,
every time, yes.
yeah, but for
So,
sure,
mm.
something that is more interested for the Kemenche player that I have in front of me, the Kemenche student.
Mm.
And yeah, not everyone is interested, for example, in learning Turkish makam theory or in learning Greek traditional repertoire from Istanbul, Asia Minor. I have
Mm.
students that they just want to learn how to play contemporary modal compositions, and
Mm.
they have seen maybe a video of me playing it, and they say, okay, she does it in a nice way. I want this, but I don't want to learn how to play Sazemai and Taksims.
Mhm.
So every time I have to adjust it, and I kind of organize these things so I can also have like a base every time
Mm.
and adjust it as needed.
Yeah, yeah. And was this easy to put in an organized setup? And
Mm,
sometimes I have seen that you are given sometimes the tool set to go and dig, as you called it. Go and dig,
yeah,
observe, find your solution, your own solution for your own personalized objective, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy, and it is
Mm.
not easy because first of all, because I don't consider myself as a fully rounded musician, I always um, how is it called? Uh, I'm always having like second thoughts. I'm
Yeah.
second guessing myself. So I am like doubting for what
Mm.
I say when I am teaching in a seminar, which is much more scary.
Mm.
Uh, when I say something, at the same time I'm thinking, is this right? What I am telling them?
Mm.
Am I not very young into this to tell them something? So first of all, because of that. Secondly, because there are many styles and there are many players, for example,
Mm.
playing this instrument, and everyone has his own style.
Mm.
My style, of course, is a lot influenced by my teachers.
Mhm.
Not everyone likes that,
Mhm.
and I don't want to be very strict about what I am showing.
Mm.
At the same time, it wasn't easy because I had to go back like 7 years. When I started teaching, I had the instrument in my hands for 7 years, I think. Yeah, 7 years. So I had to go back and
Mm.
remember how I learned those things,
Mm.
and I discovered that I didn't learn them. I just saw them. I didn't
Mhm.
practice them. So back then I didn't have my method of learning these things. I was just a kid that I was very good in learning things, but I didn't know why this was happening.
Mhm.
I didn't have a method to learn something. I saw it, I tried it once, I tried it twice, and I think I did it.
Mm.
My teachers were not like I am. They were not like, oh, this wasn't the right way to do this achacatura, this glissando, for example.
Mm.
They didn't care to tell me these things. I'm more strict,
Mm.
unfortunately, with these things.
Yeah.
But they were not like that.
Mm.
So I learned also my way of doing this ornament, which when I went back, it didn't resemble at all
Mm.
the way that Socrates, Stratis, Lefteris, Lambros Londaridis was doing this thing.
Yeah.
So I had to relearn it in order to teach it and then to organize it. But it was uh, for me relearning
Mm.
was what helped with organizing, because then
Wow.
I was like, oh, he does this in this recording. I have to write it down and find another one that does this and write it down and see, is this right?
Mm.
And I was doing it like that. Is this right? Does it make something different? Should I teach both? Should I show someone both?
Mhm.
uh, it I'm still doing it, so I'm still discovering
Interesting.
appoggiaturas, yeah, and techniques,
Interesting.
technical details, and adding or removing, and not just from Kemenche.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, for other liras, which is like the family of Kemenches, like
Mm.
this one that I have never played,
Yeah.
or this one that I will never play. But maybe from wood. Why not? If
Mm.
I can tararam like an oud does, it's something in my library. Okay, put
Mm.
it in
Mm.
your sack, and
Mm. Move with it.
continue your way. Yeah.
Yeah. This is interesting. Can you briefly discuss the instruments you have been exposed to, and then let's have
Yeah.
some demo about this Kemenche.
Okay.
Maybe
So
we have a detailed one about the Kemenche next time.
sure.
Yeah.
So the instruments that I have in my house
Mm.
um, are are not instruments that I have played
Mm.
or played a lot or
Mhm.
practiced or learned.
Mhm.
So first of all, I have this saz here,
Mm.
which in Greece we call taburas,
Mm.
and I just have it because my sister was attending a junior high school,
Mm.
playing percussion, and of course the piano, from which I got jealous and learned.
Mhm.
And it was also mandatory for her to take lessons of saz.
Mm.
I have it. I love the sound of it, but I haven't touched it.
Mm.
And next to it is a lafta,
Mm.
which I
Yes.
will tell you some things about it later, because it's the one that I tried to learn.
Yeah.
Next to to the lafta is Kemenche from Black Sea, Pontic, Karadeniz, north of Turkey,
Yeah.
where we also had Greeks there that, with exchange of population, came and brought this instrument.
Mm.
Then I have a set of drums,
Mm.
percussion from my sister as well. This one I can play a bit. It was also something that I had to do in the university as a
Mm.
subject, and because I love rhythm, and that comes from my dancing lessons,
Mm.
very attached to the rhythm.
Mm.
So, and this one is a here.
Yes.
Oh no, in the
Yeah.
camera is a bit different.
Yeah.
So here is a Indian sarangi.
Mm-hmm.
This is an instrument that I discovered as an adult by going through YouTube videos and by meeting many people in Hudetsi or in other places in the world, not just Greece.
Mm.
And Indian music I discovered,
Mm.
and I because I know how to play a bowed instrument, I felt more familiar with the sound of this. I could understand more things
Mm.
about this instrument. I like it so much. I had the idea to learn it, but I am dread. I'm scared of it going into the areas of Indian music. I respect it so much, and I
That
don't know,
might
maybe
be a challenge at some time.
this will be a huge challenge if I do it.
That will make you motivated to. Yes.
But yeah, all this, it has so many sympathetic strings that they
Yeah.
vibrate when you play the basic strings.
Mm.
Three strings, so I see a resemblance with my instrument that has three strings.
Mm.
A bow, again, something that
Mm.
is familiar with me. And
Mm.
in the beginning, I thought, okay, why not learning this? I mean,
Mm.
how different can it be, and how much more difficult? I already have achieved something with bowed instruments.
Mm.
And of course, when I started listening to it more and more Indian music, and then later, when I had it as a gift in my hands, I understood how fool I was to believe that it will be something easy. But as I told you, the one instrument that I will move a bit here,
Yeah.
that
Yes.
I will take this with me. So,
Yeah.
one instrument that I got closer to learn was lafta.
Mm.
I'm after the suggestion of my teacher Socrates,
Mm-hmm.
because he told me I already had a laughter before. My mother finally tried to follow her dream and learn an instrument, and she decided to learn a laughter. So we had in
Mm-hmm.
the family a laughter.
Mm-hmm.
She gave up,
Mm.
unfortunately,
Mm.
and I stole her instrument.
Mm-hmm.
So when Socrates learned that I had a laughter, he started thinking of why not showing me something things, but his advice was that I got closer to the musicians that will accompany me or um, join me while I play Kemenche with this instrument, sorry, this,
Yeah.
or with other instruments like lafta, ouds, or lutes in general, because he's also a great lafta player, and he's very gifted to be able to step into both shoes, like of a
Mm.
soloist playing this instrument, but also sometimes an accompany musician, a musician that will accompany this instrument
Mm.
with the lute.
Yeah.
And he advised me that I could have some lessons
Mm-hmm.
during university, so I can also understand how someone that is accompanying me with lutes or plectrum
Mm.
plectrums feels and what he's he not he waits for me, but what he would also make his job easier.
Mm.
And also, since this instrument is a very soloist, let's say,
Mm.
instrument, and sometimes it's enough to sit in your room and study by your own, when this thing here needs also um, company to play with
Mm.
sometimes.
Yes.
He thought that it will be really good for me as a musician to step also into someone else's shoes and learn
Mm.
how to go with that. Oh, sorry, the other way.
Yeah.
But as I told you, I'm not the best student, so I'm not very good in practicing. So his advice, like after some time, unfortunately, sorry, teacher,
Yeah.
didn't was not very like fruitful. Is this a right word?
Yeah, I mean, leave this judgment to us and to him.
No, no, I didn't study. I can tell
But
you
you
that.
tried. You tried it for that purpose, right?
I tried
Yeah.
in the way that was easy for me. So this hand with the melody was much easier for me to understand. But the plectrum was going always down, which is not the case with these instruments.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Is
And
it?
also, oh,
Yeah.
sorry to
Mm.
disturb you. Then I realized how bad of a piano player I was, and a piano student, and European classical music in general.
Mm.
Because then I discovered my lack of knowledge in harmony and chords, and this is something that I feel bad now, and I feel that I have to cover.
Mm.
But yeah, through this instrument, I also understood that. I
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
but
S- Mm.
this is another reason that why I feel not rounded as a musician. There are so many things to learn, and sometimes you skip or you don't feel interested or you are scared to do.
Mm.
But of course, everything will add up to what you are as a whole, as a musician in general, not just as
I
an
think
instrumentalist.
with this you answered it very well now.
Yeah.
Even though you try to escape the question, now the answer
Yeah.
is here. Thank you. Yes, can we have maybe some kind of playing on your Kemenche, whatever you like to play for us?
Sure, we can.
And then we can switch to the
Um,
last maybe discussion point.
sure.
Yeah.
So, what I would like to play is
Mm-hmm.
one of the pieces, the tunes that I first listened this instrument playing, and probably the first tune that I heard this instrument playing, and I memorized it, and I was
Mm.
singing it, even though if I knew how to play this instrument. So
Mm.
this is Husseini Sasemai from the second album that I told you in the beginning, Στα
Wow.
μέρη που πονάει η νοσταλγία.
Mm.
uh, I strongly suggest
Mm.
you and everyone to listen to this album. There are great musicians playing.
Mm.
Not just that, but the whole arrangement.
Mm.
I really love it. It's like a new era of arrangements that started happening after that. It's really beautiful. And when you think how young all these musicians were, it's
Mm.
like I feel, what am I doing here? So yeah, this is the tune that I will play, Hussein Issa Semai,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm very attached to it.
Interesting. Let's
Yes.
listen to it then.
Okay.
wonderful. So, Krisanthi, this is a great piece that we listened to. Thank you
One
very
of my
much.
favorites. Thank
Yeah.
thank those musicians.
Mm.
Which here I can say something that I didn't mention before.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I listen to these people,
Mm-hmm.
to these musicians, I say, okay, these are fully rounded musicians, and how can you play like them?
Mm-hmm.
But 1 month later from this uh, listening process, I listen to them playing something new in a video or recording or in a concert, and it's something different from what they have been doing till then.
Mm.
So then this idea of a rounded musician collapses
Mm.
just because they do it, they destroy it, because they add something to what it was before,
Mm.
they evolve, so then it's something more. So your idea of rounded musician back then
Mm.
becomes even rounder, and then you say, okay, if they do it, then um, they are still evolving, they still don't feel rounded as musicians, like fully rounded,
Wow.
fully evolved.
Mm.
So yeah, they show that to you, that I have more to
Mm.
do.
Mm.
For example, my teacher, he's an example of that, and I, what I mean is that I learned him through listening to him playing uh, traditional music for this instrument.
Mm.
And some years later,
Mm.
he he's playing with Charles Lloyd, with
Mm.
tremendous jazz players.
Mm.
He's creating his own albums with ECM, which is something different from what I had in my ears from
Mm.
him. And I thought, oh, he's doing everything. This is
Mm.
everything.
Mm.
And then he is for me an example that back then he was doing what he was know, but sorry, what he knew. Sorry,
Mm.
but it was not everything. For him was not everything.
Mm.
He wanted more. He had to do more. He had to learn more.
Uh-huh.
So you
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He
Interesting.
he
This.
showed me. He
Yeah,
showed
yeah.
me that I was not my the circle was not completed back then. I had more.
Mm.
And who can imagine what is coming next?
Mm. This is very interesting. This reminds me of a quote that Zakaria Ahmed, an Egyptian composer, said once in an interview. He said, "The great thing for an artist or a musician is to have to be broken down every time and every now and then, because that's the enlightenment that will make him continue to evolve and continue to maybe grow up and not stop at a certain stage."
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. This is great.
I mean, you are just saying the same thing. Yeah, interesting. So, can we move on to the last discussion point? I know
Hmm.
this is a very great interview, but maybe we talk some time here.
Mm.
I'm sure people are enjoying the experience you are sharing and the discussion. So, can we move to
Thank you.
your way you see practice?
Yeah,
What is a
okay.
good practice? Is there a routine? What are the things we do in this kind of music to, yeah.
I understand that there are many ways of practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Each one has his goals to achieve every
Yes.
time he practices, she practices.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for me, as I mentioned before, practice when I started was something that I didn't like,
Mm.
not just in the Kemenche, but also in the piano.
Mm.
I was like last minute practicing before lessons, but
Mm.
somehow I was performing in a good way. Not great, of
Mm.
course, I know that. Now I know that.
Mhm.
but in a percentage more than half,
Mm.
I was okay. I was able to achieve that by practicing 1 hour before the lesson.
Mm.
Um, so this was how I started.
Mm.
When I entered the orchestras and I had like this amount of repertoire of scores handed to me, everything changed,
Mm.
and I started being more consistent of my practicing methods.
Mm.
So what I liked back then and still like to do in order to learn a specific piece is a kind of karaoke, like put on the recording and
Mm.
play on top. I
Mm.
was because of my involvement with the piano, I was for me it was easy to read the score. So if I had a score, okay, I would navigate for some minutes through the score, maybe do solfege, like try to sing the melody
Mhm.
and understand which notes were there.
Mhm.
Good thing again was that I had linked the sound of a note in my in inner hearing, so I
Yes.
could sing it the right way.
Mm.
And for me, this was enough. After 2 3 times of playing, bar by bar, line by line, phrase by phrase, I could put also the recording and then play again and again and again
Mhm.
until I was comfortable with that.
Mm.
This is something that I do, that I still do it
Mm.
for practicing things that have been recorded, and I
Mm.
have someone that I I consider as a legitimate source
Yes.
of version, for example,
Yes.
to listen to and
Mm.
copy. Of
Mm.
course, this is a great learning method.
Yeah.
And copy and listen the tuning and repeat again and again. So
Mhm.
for something like that, this is what I do.
Mm.
I am If I have the score, I'm based on the score. If I don't have a score,
Mm.
I little by little try to listen to what I have to learn,
Mhm.
but like the first 5 seconds and then maybe 10,
Mm.
and then reproduce it.
Mm.
But for 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 things, for tunes that are like contemporary,
Mm.
and I have to be like one of the creators of it,
Mm.
musically creators,
Yes.
then things are different. Or
Mm.
for styles that I'm not used to it, again, it is very very different. For
Mm.
example, if I want to study Arabic
Mm.
tunes, if I don't, even if it's just one, if I don't hear a lot of Arabic music before,
Mm.
I think it will be very, very difficult for me to
Mm.
adjust my playing, because I have to change some things that are already established in my technique,
Yes.
like the tuning. I have in my head, in my inner hearing, I have. Uh, I'm very good with listening to Greek style, Byzantine style, Turkish style, and European classical music style intervals,
Yes.
not Arabic.
Mm.
And I think that they're very difficult for me to move my finger a little bit or a little bit lower or higher and adjust
Mm.
this. It's a process.
Yeah.
So first of all, I like to listen to a lot of this style of music that I'm
Mhm.
going to play, if it's like a traditional modern music.
Mhm.
And then I will go to try little by little the tunes,
Mm.
and the melodies.
Mhm.
Little by little, step by step is always my motto in
Mm.
practicing. Especially now that I am growing,
Mhm.
and I don't want to say getting older, but I am. My memory is not that good. I used to memorize hundreds of semis. Now I'm confusing one with the other, and it's not the
Because they are
easiest
now too
thing.
many.
Too many, and not just that.
Yes. Mm.
So yeah, step by step is my key to practicing.
Mm.
And the difficult also thing is when I have to play European classical music, because this is something that I do with the
Mm.
Kemenche. Because
Mm.
then after 12 years of playing this instrument and being more comfortable with microtones and all these things, is
Mm.
very easy to come back to more square, let's say,
Yeah, yeah.
notes that are like there you have to hit this note and not something higher or lower,
Mm.
or something that moves.
Mm.
And for example, I was playing just before Corona started with an ensemble, brass ensemble,
Mm.
in the Netherlands. I was playing the Ninth Symphony of Beethoven
Mm.
with the Kemenche. It's a huge, huge piece in length, in glory. I really admire
Mm.
Beethoven.
Yeah.
So I think this, for me, this was a huge challenge that I enjoyed so much.
Mhm.
I remember this was one of the last times, because then Corona happened, that
Mm.
I sit with my instrument for several hours with the score in front of me, going note by note, looking at the tuner if I was hitting the right note. And yeah, I had a routine there, like a ritual.
Mm.
Every day I had to wake up that time. It's, it's a more strict music
Mm.
sometimes that needs that. And I also like it
Mm.
with these kind of challenges to
Yeah.
do it as a ritual. I was
Mm.
listening to the melodies. I was listening to what the violins were doing.
Mm.
I was listening a lot,
Mm.
also step by step, and listening a lot are are my two mottos for practicing, that I also try always to remember, but to to say to my students.
Mm.
So yes, but also with a new composition, classical styled, let's say European
Mm.
classical style derived composition that I played some months ago, in which I didn't have any recording.
Mm.
And it was a score of 80 different instruments. I don't know what, 80 different lines in every, not
Mm.
80, but I'm exaggerating, but too
Mm.
many,
Yeah.
too many different instruments that I had to find my place.
Mhm.
Ultimate challenge that really liked it. And sometimes you can not just practice in your house. It's a in the rehearsal. Yeah, it's a great practicing process. So it depends. What I want to say is that the routine, the ritual of practicing, the process, every time changes.
But
Again,
then you
something
use.
liquid,
Yeah, yeah.
something that is not a box that you can always
Mm.
take with you and have it.
Mhm.
Uh, and of course, as you change and as
Mm.
you evolve as a human, as a musician, you
Mm.
find different methods that work for you
Mm.
to learn what you want to learn. And sometimes you learn things while you don't want to learn those. I mean, while it wasn't your first goal, your initiative to learn
Mm.
those. So yeah, many things
Yeah,
come
yeah.
and change
Are
as you
there
change.
are there like for our kind, mostly the model music, if we can say, are there things that we need to do, like maybe the violinist scales? You have to spend 15 minutes
Mhm.
or 30 minutes or maybe a portion of your practice on scales. You need to do sequencing or maybe some phrasing repetitively. as a
Mm,
warm up exercises? Are these things required? The way you see things, from your
mhm.
experience.
From my experience,
Yes.
personally, and not what I tell my students to do,
Yeah.
no,
Hopefully they
no,
don't listen to us now.
no. Hopefully, no. But some of them will. No, I did this only the times that before performing that I
Mm,
was very scared of what I was going to play.
mm,
Um, Sometimes I just got the instrument with and started playing without playing for 2 days.
mhm,
I can tell you that I do this always. I do it rarely, like a warm up.
mm,
But the one thing that I do, and I really believe into that,
mm,
is the right posture, not the one that I have now, like
mm,
a really right one.
mm,
So the first thing I also tell my students, and the first thing I fixed when I started teaching, I relearned,
mm,
was how to sit correctly, how to hold the instrument
mm,
correctly, and to move my hands, my arms, and my whole body.
mm,
And for me, this is the most important. This is a good warm up also. So
mm,
if you have to sit in a different chair to play, try to find which is the most comfortable place for you.
mm.
And sometimes your muscle memory comes and you don't need much warm up.
Yes.
But yeah, for me, the posture, I will stand up, I will sit again, I will
Mm,
find the my right posture where my body feels
mm,
comfortable,
mm,
and then uh, I can say that many things come easily. You don't have to warm up or to be
mm.
much prepared for that.
Yeah.
If I, for example, if I don't have a footstool under my feet and I have to play like that, immediately it becomes very difficult for me, even if I warmed up backstage, for example.
It will impact
So,
like
so
the
much.
duration, how much you can give and express
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
on. Yeah.
because I won't feel uh, comfortable with my body, and then this will affect my mind also, and my everything. Then all this bad energy will come from the instrument. So first of all, I would say that for sure, if you don't want to do a warm up, if I don't want to do a warm up, I will at least do this.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, the practice is not about the notation for sure.
No.
It's about the emotion that you mentioned earlier, which is the most
Yes.
important thing, the message. Please let me know,
Yes.
how you see like practice together with this.
So now that I'm practicing,
Mm,
um, I'm practicing much more than before,
mm,
because I am I every time I'm getting closer and closer to
mm,
what I want to achieve.
mm.
But even if I get closer, my goals also move.
Yeah, which is great.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes it's tiring because you're always chasing after your goals but never
Yes.
reaching it. As I told you before, for me, a skill set, maybe
Mm,
the only one, is emotion.
mm,
And I'm always chasing after emotion, and I'm
mm,
always linked
mm,
with my emotions, my soul, the emotion in general.
mm,
And this is also part of my practice, part of my teaching,
mm,
part of my performing.
mm,
So in my practice, maybe this is the last step. After I have learned the tune, the notes, the fingering, the bowing, the ornaments, the dynamics, and everything,
mm,
there is one thing I have to do to to consider myself as as true
mm,
to to myself as a musician, I mean.
Mm.
So this is to know how to to communicate and to produce everything that I have in my soul and I believe and I feel while listening this music, while practicing in this music, and
Mm.
to let it go outside. And
Mm.
I also practice that.
Mm.
And for example,
Mhm.
I remember in one seminar I had with Deria Turkan in Labyrinth. It
Mhm.
was, I think, winter seminar. Yes.
Mm.
Um, the first days, Deria asked us to perform something, and so could he could hear us playing,
Mm.
and so he could navigate through the class
Mm.
level.
Mm.
So I prepared something and I studied the ornaments. I practiced during the night and the noon between classes. And okay, I took a big breath
Mhm.
and then no, sorry, Socrates was also there.
Mm.
And I was again the youngest in the seminar, but also I was that determined that I want to follow this in my life. Socrates knew it. I was like, wait for me in the university,
Mhm.
etc., etc. So next day the seminar started, and we were all sitting in a circle. Then Socrates and Deria told me, "You are going to play first."
Mhm.
I was like, "Okay, first." I have to play well in front of them of my masters. I was like, oh, I'm prepared. I will play. I think I will play Buselik Pesrev from Nikolakis.
Mm.
This was like one of my go-tos,
Mm.
and before I started, I remember my teacher Socrates telling me, "Okay, feel free. You can start whenever you want. Everyone is listening to you. Even the walls have ears to listen to you playing."
All right.
Uh, yeah, this is, you know what is
Yeah.
teasing me, but in a very serious way. I was very young and I was like,
Mm.
dreaded them.
Mm.
So I started playing, and okay, I was confident, I was good with my fingering, with everything. And in the end, I finished. Everyone's like, okay, very good, bravo. And then Deria told me, and where is the emotion? Where is the musicality?
Mm.
I didn't understand what he meant because I knew
Mm.
that I played the right ornament in the right note, and I had the version of, I don't remember who, but one of those two
Yeah.
gentlemen from a previous seminar playing this. So I
Yeah.
tried to be very good with that, and he told me that, and I was like astonished. I didn't know what he meant, what musicality was, what, but I was feeling. I had a feeling when I was playing while he didn't. Why he didn't listen that?
Yes.
I This is also one of my memories that are very strong in my mind.
Mm.
And after that, I started searching for that, like
Mm.
the element that for me at that time I thought it was the only element that I was missing. Of
Mm.
course, I was very young to know that I
Mm.
was missing much more,
Mm.
and it became also another mission to
Mm.
let this feeling be heard.
Mm.
And I discovered that the only way, not I didn't discover it, but I I I realized it.
Mm.
I realized that the only way to let this feeling shine and make your melodies sound more interesting and reach, really reach the crowd, not just the ears,
Mm.
but also to go inside, is if I was thinking that I'm telling a story.
Oh.
And I realized that it is not just notes on a paper. It's not just a score.
Mm.
It is not just ornaments.
Mm.
You have to tell a story. And after I realized that, it became the most important thing for me, and
Mm.
the thing that I enjoy mostly. And I can say that I am much more interested into finding more about that, into helping my students unlock this,
Mm.
than helping them do the right ornament. I'm more
Mm.
excited in helping with that, not showing, because it's not about
Yeah, yeah.
showing things. So yeah,
Interesting.
every time I'm trying to think the theatrical part of this,
Mm.
how to tell a story, what this melody needs to become a story. For
Mm.
example, maybe I will play a melody for
Yeah,
you
please.
later like that.
Yeah.
But if I am playing a song that are lyrics to that,
Mm.
the lyrics say something.
Mm.
There is already emotion in words, right? If
Yes.
the song is talking about separation,
Mm.
because someone of the loved ones from the family went abroad,
Mm.
or if it talks about nature, or I don't know what,
Mm.
there is a story, and of course there is a feeling. If I am talking about my loved one,
Mm.
or a love without recognition,
Mm.
I feel sad about it. I feel a rush of emotions. How can I deliver that through the melody? So this is
Mm.
something that I always try to find, and I am saying that I didn't discover it because I realized it. I realized that many musicians, great musicians, do it,
Mm.
and there was a musician that showed me in a way, not directly, but through a music group that we had
Mm.
in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
He showed the group how to do it and what needs to be done in order just to be a flat
Mm.
uh, algorithm or sequence of notes. This was
Yeah.
Evgenios Vulgaris. I don't
Ah.
know if you know Evgenios.
Yeah. So how did
Yeah,
he show that?
he. The first thing that he said is that you have to let the melody breathe, not to
Mm.
be da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Mm.
Da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-dun, da-da-da. Immediately, if you didn't change anything, if you let this breathe as you breathe through
Mm.
talking, something changes.
Mm. Uh-huh.
I don't know how he discovered it, but it's genius.
Mm.
It is what I needed. It is really what I need to practice now. So I
Mm.
don't care if I play one note wrong. When I'm practicing, the most important thing is to find the way of telling this story, to
Mm.
find maybe the way that Evgenios would follow to say this story, because he's a great storyteller
Mm.
other than a musician. He's a great storyteller through his melodies, through his playing methods. I don't know how to
Wow.
call it.
Wow. Wow.
I
Interesting.
need that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
cause it immediately uh, brings me back to my source, which is
Mm.
always my soul and my feeling, and what I I really love about music, the feeling.
Interesting. And that kind of a breathing and maybe telling the story in two steps. It goes from the
Yes,
beginning to maybe
yes,
characters,
yes.
plots, maybe a dramatic event, whatever, the climax, the
Mm-hmm.
entire thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and later,
Mm.
now I can say that I'm a bit able to recognize these things, even though they are not written in a score.
Yes.
I can
Yes.
look at the score and find a bit the way of telling a story, but there is not always one way
Mm.
for this melody. There is not one way to say the story of this melody,
Wow. Yes.
and this also becomes a bit more interesting than before, because in the beginning you are trying to find one way,
Yes.
and then you're trying to find a second way,
Mm.
can be which can be totally different, like the opposite.
Mm.
aggression and romance,
Mm.
or slow, fast. And I discovered that these opposites work very, very well
Mm.
together.
Interesting. This is very interesting. You are giving a lesson about appreciation and this, emphasis into the emotions. How does it go when we take it to analytics? There are people who are maybe giving more analysis and more, going into details. The phrase from here to here is this kind of a phrase or maqam, but
Mm,
maybe they forget later on about telling the story in a proper way, or maybe interpreting the piece, and that's the beauty. Like every artist and a musician will do a new recording or a live concert, is going to tell the
mm-hmm.
story once more in a different way. Let's
Yeah.
let's maybe compare analytics and the analysis part versus emotion. Are they two conflicting things or what? Or they can go together?
Um, they can go together.
Mm.
There is a living example of that, which is Ross, I think.
Yes, yes, yes.
Totally, they can go. But I think this is also a gift, or this
Mm.
is something that you can achieve after a lot of feeling and a lot of analyzing, and
Yeah.
maybe have a conclusion what works for you.
Yes.
Um, I see all these three things working.
Mm.
For example, I see that some people that are analyzing a lot when performing,
Mm.
they can just leave this aside. Or
Mm.
for example, I see teachers. I have this experience from teachers that in their lessons they were analyzing bar by bar what
Mm.
was happening, but in their concerts I was totally happy
Mm.
to listen to them because they were letting the emotion
Mm.
flow. So
Yes.
it was not analysis also bar by bar when they were
Yes.
playing.
Yes.
Um, on the contrary, I know people that have little experience with analysis and with theory, or they are now doing it,
Mm.
and they're just based in their feeling.
Mm.
This works.
Mm.
And for example, I listen to Kelly
Mm.
Thomas playing and also composing.
Mm.
It's great. I can understand that it is also coming from inside of her, and it is
Mm.
not because she knows how to write a score
Mm.
and analyzing.
Yes.
And then you see Ross Daly who does both. You see Socrates who does both.
Yeah.
He's a super analytical and mathematical mind,
Yes.
but you cannot listen to that when they are performing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Interesting.
okay with everything.
Interesting.
I'm okay with everything. I cannot do all of these things. My my thing is feeling. I'm very connected to it.
Mm.
I have been in concerts with friends,
Mm.
and after the concert or during a break, they start the conversation about the harmonic progression at
Mm.
this part of
Mm.
the piece, or I don't know what, this modulation in the taksim that this performer did, and I'm like, I feel like I completely missed all of these things and I don't have anything to say because I was not thinking while listening to the music. I
Yeah.
didn't have any thought. It was like empty, or I got a little bit of it, but just for the moment. I didn't, it was not like saved in the hard drive.
Okay. So this is a hat, and that's another hat to wear. Yes.
Yes,
We have to have like several personalities for their own purposes. Interesting.
exactly.
Interesting.
Yes, I believe that.
Yeah, Chrysanthi, let's maybe listen to some good emotions on the Kemenche for now.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, before we conclude.
So I'm just going to play a Greek song called San Pas Staxena with just a small intro.
Mhm. Allah, Allah. So beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. We need a dedicated interview for the Kemenche and yes,
Try
maybe in the
first to
future.
contact to contact Daria. He has more things to
Yeah,
tell you
every
about.
one of you has his own more things. So Daria will be soon with us on Alnadi.
Can't wait to
Yes.
see.
Thank you very much, Chrysanthi. Now, uh, last few questions here.
Mhm.
What are the current activities that you are doing? What are you busy with? What are your plans?
Okay,
Hmm.
so I find this as a period of mostly focusing in my thesis.
Hmm.
This is something that I do like, but I cannot say that I don't miss performing because I'm all about performing. Unfortunately, because of COVID, things are not clear very yet,
Hmm.
but there are some ideas
Hmm.
that maybe some concerts will follow because this is the year of completing 100 years from the exchange of the population between
Hmm.
Turkey and Greece.
Hmm.
So it's a year that this instrument could have, its
Hmm.
most golden age, let's say.
Yes.
But from what I know, is what is coming next for me is more teaching. Also,
Hmm.
a new seminar in Labyrinth Online during
Hmm.
April,
Yes.
and the focus now is mostly on my thesis, on dedicating this time to Lambros Leontaridis
Hmm.
and find more things, or what I can find
Hmm.
about his life, his last product,
Hmm. Interesting.
and then what I have to prepare for is for my final concert to achieve a master's degree.
Yeah, and then PhD.
Right. Oh, this is far, far away.
Never know.
Yeah, but this is, with Corona, is the first time that
Hmm.
I don't know what's really next in concerts and
Yeah.
in practice with
Hmm.
music, because everything comes last minute.
Yeah, hopefully this is the end of it and people will get back to normal soon.
Yeah, hopefully. I
Yes.
really hope so. But
Yes.
I'm okay with doing what is needed
Yeah.
for having everyone being healthy and
Yes.
alive, which is not taken for granted anymore.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the other things that are happening at the same time is some recordings that
Mhm.
are being prepared, some for theater music, others for albums.
Interesting.
Hopefully that we will have more of that.
Yeah, wonderful. And how can you be contacted for lessons or whatever projects?
Um, the easiest way is to find me in social media, in Instagram, in Facebook, and
Mm.
send me a direct message. I always see those and
Mm.
try to reply in all of those.
Yes.
And of course, there is a channel in YouTube with my name. You can
Mm.
also send me a message there. It's
Mhm.
not a great channel that you can find many things, but at least you can find me through there.
Thank you very much, Chrysanthi.
Thank you
Really,
to
this
have me.
was a great time discussing many, many things. And I'm sure our viewers have learned many things. They were having great thoughts on their own activities, their own interests. Thank you very much. Maybe I leave the
Thank
conclusion to you.
you. Thank you so much. I cannot describe at first how excited and surprised I was because last time before my invitation, I saw you had a friend Lopez, which is for me a great musician, and I would never think that I would be here. And when I started searching that you invite Ross, Negar, Socrates, you told me, oh sorry, secretly, what's coming next. So for me, this is a great honor to receive your
Thank you very
invitation.
much for accepting
And
actually the invitation. Yeah.
thank you so much. Can't wait for your next not invitations, of course,
Yeah.
but to see what's coming next also with Alnadi project.
Yes, it's for all
Good
of
luck.
us. For all of us, hopefully. And thank you again. Thank you, our viewers, and see you soon in another great interview with our great guest.
Yes, take care, and I hope one day we will have the opportunity to make these discussions in person.
Hopefully soon.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Fadil.